from, so we're going to, hello, everybody. It's September 24th. We're going to start the meeting on time out of courtesy for Officer Ignat, who is with us, I think.
Yes.
There it is. And so that we can do the police report, we are still waiting for a lot of our guest speakers to to come on in, so they'll be joining us. And Officer Ignat, thank you for coming. I know it's been a busy week, particularly with traffic related things. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to start the meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We did send out the meetings or the minutes of the July 30th meeting. We were off in August, of course, for summer break. Does anybody have any corrections for the minutes from July 30th? Okay. I'd like to move that we accept the meetings and start them, or the minutes, I'm sorry, and start the meeting. Somebody second, please.
Sorry,
Anyone?
second.
Thanks, Edie. Okay, now we'll go over to Officer Ignat, now that I have to remember to start the meeting. Are you with us, Officer?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Thank you for joining us.
Of course. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Just to go over some of the quick stats for the month. This is kind of like towards the end of last month through where we are now. We've had 247 calls for service. One of those resulting in an arrest. We had 38 security checks throughout the neighborhood, 19 911 disconnects, 13 alarm calls, 12 traffic stops, 9 of those resulting in tickets. 10 follow-up reports, 11 disturbances, 7 auto burglaries, 3 residential burglaries, 3 vandalisms. And then we had 1 domestic violence incident. That's pretty much the basis of what we have for this month. Nothing is outstanding that we had reported. I'd heard you ask something about traffic earlier. If somebody has a question or a comment on that, I can try to address it.
Anybody? Looks like no. We have seen, I think a lot of us have seen a lot more parking red tags going up. We appreciate that. I do want to bring to your attention on behalf of the 3 neighbors who stopped me in the town triangle yesterday and today, the situation with what appears to be mentally ill or heavily drug using homeless folks in the town triangle almost immediately when the sun goes down has become completely disturbing. These are new folks to our community. We see a continuous influx. This is something obviously that I'll address with Michelle Michelle Milan, because she is on the homeless task force. Do you have any comments and can you assist us? We have everything that we work for is being kind of torn down. We have folks tearing at our electrical outlets, breaking our water stuff, of course, going in the trash. So almost every morning there's trash all over because those who are not well just dump the trash cans looking for whatever they're looking for, probably aluminum. Do you have any comment or anything that you can mention about that, Officer?
Yeah, we're very aware of it. It's starting to pick up over there for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. The best thing that you can do to kind of help us as the community is if you see something, or if you're kind of like every day I see them around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. If they're starting to do habits, or there's a specific area that they hang out in, if you could call us and let us know so that we can address it, or at least start doing extra patrol specifically during that time, so that we could be more of a visual deterrent, or maybe we catch something in the act and start, arresting these people or stopping things before it happens, so that obviously we can be of help to the community. Because where we swing through there sometimes we don't see something, sometimes we do. Other times we just don't know because nobody calls. So always, if you see something, you don't have to feel like you're being a annoying person by calling the police. Just go ahead and give us a ring so we can address it.
And if you can, please take note, just call police non-emergency. If you want to take note, their clothing, their general appearance, their ethnicity, or just something so the police can approach them. And let's bear in mind also to offer them services. So, there's not a situation where we're heartless. Um, but I actually saw a next door post of somebody encouraging homeless people to come live in Point Richmond. Um, because it's such a nice place to be homeless. Edie, you had a question?
Yes, Officer Ignan, if we do need to call, should we be calling the regular non-emergency number or should we be calling 911? I always feel bad about calling 911 for something that doesn't seem like it's a life or death situation or a crime in progress. But if it's a better way to call you directly through the actual non-emergency number,
Yeah, the
I
non
want to do that.
for like you said, for non in progress or like life threatening situations, the non-emergency number is fine. That'll still get to us at a pretty timely manner so that we can address something. But obviously, for your more serious crimes or something that you think requires a little more haste, you want to call 911.
Right. If there
Thank you.
needs to, and Michelle's kind of, thank you. That was a great question, Edie. Michelle's kind of addresses with us a lot. If somebody is appearing to hurt themselves, if they appear to be injured, if they're passed out, if they're incoherent, and they need a welfare check, you're concerned, then that's an emergency call. But just for hanging around or up to no good, that phone number I hope you all have in your cell phones is 510-233-1214. When it rings through, then you just press 0 right away to get to the dispatcher. Again, it's 510-233-1214 and press 0. The other thing I highly recommend, and it eventually will get back to the police, is the use of the app, the City of Richmond app. I want to explain, you don't see any results from that, but when you place a report, like we have vandalism, go figure, we have vandalism at the plunge. I was able to report that when that goes in, it immediately opens a case. When you phone it in, you're talking to someone who is then going to open a case. So it's actually puts it into the system and records it in a faster way. And I'm going to be on Saturday at the PTA thing most of the day. For those of you who are not tech savvy, I'm not, but I will help you download that app and I'll show you how to use it. We can do it right on your phone at the PRNC booth on Saturday in the downtown Triangle. James?
Yes, is there any availability for traffic officers at Tewksbury and Castro and that East Standard and Castro for those U-turns, illegal U-turns? You muted?
I think we may have lost Officer Ignat.
He is muted.
Can
Oh,
you,
He's
can you
muted.
hear me?
There we go. Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when it comes to the traffic stuff, the traffic unit is kind of separate from us. They have their different areas that they target and their different ops that they do. But I can definitely mention it to them so that they can put on their list. Is it? You said, is there a certain time of day that you're noticing this, or is it just all
Commute,
throughout the
the
day?
commute hours, the bridge,
Okay.
the Enterfield Bridge traffic.
And then you said this was Tewksbury and where?
Usually now it's mostly at East Standard. There's I can count. You can count like 30 in a row, just making those U-turn there.
Okay. I'll definitely let them know.
Thanks.
thank you. Are there any more questions for the officer before he goes back to his exhausting overtime? Officer, thank you for making time for us. We really appreciate that. It's been a challenging month for RPD, and I think most of us support you pretty strongly and are grateful for your work and for the fact that you're here with us.
Appreciate that, Philip.
All right, take care. Be careful out there.
Thank you guys for your time.
So we have a lot of updates. And so I do want to comment that I want to start the meeting by pointing out that most of the speakers here are either giving us an update on a project that's almost finished or will soon be finished, or they are here to discuss upcoming outreach. So I just want to make it clear, for example, we have bike lane outreach. We have Ben Gettleman back to talk about the sewer, or to mention the outreach for the sewer treatment plant. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the outreach and ask questions or make comments concerning the outreach. This meeting is not to discuss the issues themselves. All of these issues have extensive outreach, and we'll be seeing these mostly at the beginning of the new year. So we don't want to jump the meeting. I also see Robert Armijo here. Thanks for coming out. I know you've been working really hard. Let me just do a quick update. All good news, I think, from the president's report. Those of you who've been in the town triangle saw that we were 75% there last week. And over the last 2 days, a team of gardeners from Acapulco Rock and Soil, who corporately made us an incredibly inexpensive deal, has been finishing the town triangle. Those gardens in the area around the library should be finished by Friday in time for the Saturday festival by the PTA, the Kernes festival. And there is still some mulching to be done, but the city has promised, our beloved David Rogers has promised that he'll fill in that mulch, and then our town triangle will be done. If you have children and you attend festivals, keep your kids out of the gardens, please. We love your children and we know they're special. But what part of coming to a community event is to teach your kids how to be part of the community. And part of that is saying no sometimes. This is not a place to play. So we do have the playground 1 block up on Nickel Avenue. So please, please, please keep your kids out. We are constantly changing sprinklers and changing plants because the sprinklers were broken. So let's work together to make sure the kids have fun, but not in the gardens, please. The PTA event is from 10 to 5. It is enormous. They have live music. It's a Latin festival for Latin History Month, I think, but this is their major fundraiser. Pram will certainly be there. The PTA, I was an hour with the PTA today. So we're very excited to have that event happening. It's 10 to 5 in the town triangle on Washington and Park. So they're taking the whole triangle. PRNC will be there for the whole day on Park Place. So you can stop by. I'll teach you how to download the app, or you can complain about me or whatever, or ask me to bring your concerns forward. We've got one more dance class next Tuesday at 7:30 at Hidden City. They have been a riot. About 150 people have been through our dance series. It is free of charge. And it's been hysterical. Next Tuesday is hip hop. And it is hip hop for everybody. So we are not going to be upside down on the floor. The whole thing has been great, and I think it's going to be a really good time. So those are just a couple things from the PRNC. Please note, and we'll send out notices, the gardening event will be on October the 11th from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a rose trimming demonstration. We're going to have a native plant chat, and everybody is going to be asked within their whatever their physical ability to maybe help trim some plants, maybe clean up some of those suckers that grow around the trees and the tree squares. We are going to ask you to adopt a tree, and that will be yours to just keep trim and weed around. If you adopt a tree, we'll give you a pair of hand clippers. It really only takes 2 or 3 minutes whenever you're walking your dog by. So there'll be all kinds of gardening related things. And then there'll be a pizza party at the end to celebrate the new gardens. And I will mention, when you sign in, you're going to get a name tag. If you're not wearing it, you don't get no pizza. So for those of you who think it's a great idea just to show up for the pizza, we love you, but the pizza is the reward for helping out. If you don't have great ability, we need people to sweep. We need people to wipe down benches. And sitting and chatting is okay. We're supporting those who are doing the gardening. So you'll see more on that. So let's get started because we have such a busy agenda. We're going to start with
Philip,
Ben
Philip,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
also wanted to remind you, sorry, that on the 4th is the dumpster day.
I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. Dumpster day on the 4th. The city is requesting no trucks bigger than a pickup truck. This tends to be the same kind of folks every time. They are in the construction business, and they load up a gigantic truck or they rent like a box truck. We can't accommodate those. So nothing larger than a pickup truck. Generally, if you're a neighbor and we know you and it's not industrial or commercial waste, you can usually go and fill your truck a second time. So far, we've had luck with that, but we can't do the big trucks this year. You will line up on Cutting alongside the elementary school, make a right onto Wine Street. PRNC officers are super organized at directing traffic. We've got volunteers to help seniors or those who need a hand. Eric is in charge of the heavy lifting to help you unload your cars and move things along really quickly. So thanks for pointing that out. Now, let's get to our guest speakers. A reminder, we're very happy to hear your suggestions for outreach, but this is not the meeting where we're going to discuss the specifics of the project. Many of you already know Ben Gettleman of Kernes and West, and he has brought along with him Adam Brown from BKF Engineering, who is the new engineer on the project. Please bear in mind that Mr. Brown and his company are new to this project. So Mr. Gettleman's going to help us to communicate what's happened in the past and hope that we have a transparent and effective future. Welcome, Ben. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks, Phil. And hi, everybody. We're going to be brief today. I've got a few slides just to kind of walk through sort of what our team is focusing on right now. And then we're happy to, open up for some questions, or if folks have thoughts to share, we'd certainly love to hear those. Okay, so hopefully folks can see that. Just an overview, and it's nice to see some familiar faces. We did do some work, Kernes and West did some work in 2024 for this project, the Keller Beach project, really about the community engagement component of it while the city was in between technical consultants. We're based in the Bay Area. We've been doing this for a long time. And we really serve as a neutral third party that works with community and public agencies and technical consultants, all with the goal of having an inclusive and transparent process. So that's what we've been hired to do. And that's what we're going to kind of talk to you a little bit today about what our plans are. So we were working on this project for a little bit in 2024. And then the contracting kind of had a brief sort of a break, and now we're back on contract, kind of starting up in earnest again. But I did want to recap. I thought we got some really helpful input from the community in 2024, and wanted to recap that because that's really helping inform the approach that we're going to move forward here. The first thing we did, we had a community meeting with you all, this neighborhood council, back in July 2024. And some of the highlights of what we heard, one is just that, understandably, community input is important, and it should be at the beginning, the middle, and the end throughout the planning process. And so that we're certainly keeping that in mind. We've had some really good conversations with BKF about how best to do that. We heard that folks want to receive proactive communication, and that it's out there, so folks have time to formulate an opinion and provide input. And I think, again, that's a very fair request, and that's something that we're planning on accommodating. I do think there's a lot of materials, both past and as we move through this process, and folks want to have one place to go to get the information. And I'll talk a little bit about the website that we're working on with the city, but that is our plan is to do that. Leveraging existing venues like this one, to work with CBOs, community organizations in and around Richmond. And so, again, we've got some ideas about how to do that. We'd love to hear some thoughts from others about how we can expand the reach to make sure that we're getting as much input as we can to inform this project. And then just recognizing folks are busy, we heard some recommendations for surveys so we can, people can provide their input on their own time. And that's something we can certainly do. Let's see. We then held a focus group meeting about 3 months later. We talked a little bit about what success looks like from a community engagement standpoint. I think one is really understanding what the project scope is. Two is trust and making sure there's broad community engagement. And then finally, making sure everyone's clear on the project timeline, what the milestones are, and then how input can inform those. I think the folks just want to make sure they have the opportunity to get the information and then provide input as it relates to the project timeline. So again, I think these are all things that we're planning on delivering on. The objectives that we have for the work that we're starting and going to continue are built on that input. First and foremost, I think that transparency and trust is going to be critical to come up with a solution that's supported. Providing regular updates, making sure folks have information, have access to information, aligning our conversations with the milestones. So again, we're making sure we're getting input at the right time, so it's informing decisions before they happen. And then ultimately, really understanding from the community what success looks like from them for this project, and doing our best to incorporate input to make that happen. Okay. So just an overview of our activities. And again, we are certainly open to, this is a reflection of what we heard in the past, but if folks have suggestions or requests, we'd certainly love to hear that. So we're planning on having this neighborhood council meeting be a pretty regular hub, as it were, of bringing in updates and asking questions. And I think BKF is also planning on, being available for these meetings as well. And then other community meetings, or could be larger workshops that would be of value. And so again, I think it really depends on when the milestones are, who we want to get this information out to. We do want to do a fair amount in the education information sharing. So I mentioned the city's project webpage, and we're in the process of getting that updated and creating that inventory of materials. And then working on some just fact sheets and FAQs. So sort of the common questions that come up, there's consistent messaging and understanding around that. And then planning on doing kind of a periodic newsletter of here's what's new with this project. Here are opportunities that are coming up to provide input, and if we have a survey that'd be linked to that, those sorts of things. And then otherwise, one-on-one communication. If we want to be available, and if folks have questions and want to have a conversation, we certainly want to accommodate that. So that's kind of in terms of the engagement, that's kind of at a high level what we're looking at. I'm going to turn it over to Adam Brown from BKF, who I think is just going to do an introduction. And then maybe after Adam goes through his slides, I have a couple questions for you all. And if you have questions about the engagement and we have time, I'm happy to answer those. So I'll turn it over to you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam. And I just wanted to mention, please excuse me, I forgot to mention that I flip-flopped. Robert was going to speak first, but I was waiting for another Public Works folks, so Robert will speak right after you guys speak.
Okay.
The Public Works Assistant Deputy Public Works Director. Okay, sorry, Adam.
No problem. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Ben. So yes, BKF has been selected for this project. We're excited to get to work. We understand this project has a very long, complicated history, but we're here. We're willing to give this the care and the comprehensive look that it requires. And so we look forward to partnering with the city, with Kernes and West, and with the community to get this done in the right way. BKF has been around for over 110 years. So we're actually celebrating our 110-year anniversary actually this year. So I shouldn't say over, but it's a long time to be in business. It's a lot of relationships we've made. It speaks to the reputation that we've had throughout the state, really, but especially in the Bay Area. And so what we're going to be looking at is both interim and final solutions. So both, what would it take to maybe make an interim solution to address maybe part of the problem, part of the issues, and then maybe a final solution, and how do those dovetail together. So we are definitely looking at both of those. And like I said, definitely collaborating very closely with the city and all the public outreach efforts, as well as the community. I will be the project manager on the project, and then Siobhan Paladugu, my partner here up in Northern California for the water resources operations with BKF, will be partnering together on this one to get the work done. We'll go next slide. So just wanted to touch briefly on the scope of work that we have in our contract. So what we're doing on a very high level, so we're going to be reviewing all the information that is provided to us by the city. That includes any past documentation from any past iterations or research. It also includes any plans, any maps, any models, anything that the city has. So we're currently going through that right now. And then our scope has defining and evaluating up to 6 total alternatives. So as I said, with interim and final, that includes up to 3 interim alternatives and up to 3 final alternatives. We will be working with the community as we define those, as we understand what those are. We will present those to you, have some discussion on how comprehensive we feel those are, making sure we're not leaving anything out. And as we've heard from the previous city council meeting, I believe in April, that there is the goal to prioritize the review of the interim solution. So we're not letting that fall through the cracks or delaying that. That is going to be our priority number 1 as we start with proceeding with the work for this. And so then other pieces of the scope that we have under our contract that we'll get to after looking at those interim solutions is also looking at field investigation. So that's identifying existing utilities, doing a topographic survey, potentially doing some verification of those utilities, what we call potholing out in the field, also doing a review of geotechnical considerations, meaning the soils that are out there as well. All of this will feed into the different types of alternatives we can look at, how feasible they are. We're also going to screen those alternatives that we come up with for environmental and regulations and permits. So any project the city is going to undertake, depending on the alternative we look at, may or may not have different environmental concerns that we need to be considering as well, or different permits that are required for those options. So that is under our contract. And then we will be, as said before, collaborating and providing materials, graphics, maps, different things that Kearns and West may need for different meetings and outreach with all of you folks. And then our deliverables, our ultimate deliverables, are really 2 technical memos, basically reports that we're going to write. One of them that will document our interim solutions, meaning, the alternatives, how we came up with those, what we analyzed, how they ranked against each other, the recommendations coming out of those, and then again for the final solutions as well, and how those interim and final solutions dovetail together. So that's a summary, a real high look at what's in our scope to work on for the next several months, and we look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Adam. So we have a few minutes for questions. Remember, these will be questions on the process and not specifically on the project. Does anybody have the questions on the process or the process of outreach? I can't believe there are no questions. I don't believe it. You all know how to raise your, if you don't know how to raise your hands electronically, do it physically. There we go, Graham. Thank you.
Good. Well, thanks, Phil. Well, Ben and thanks for coming to the meeting. What I think, and it was a very nice presentation. What I think a lot of us are concerned about is it was a very nice presentation, and your job there is to keep us locals happy, whilst Public Works and the engineering company do what they want to do, and then we're just dropped in with a couple of final solutions without any input from our stakeholders. And there are a lot of stakeholders here who have a lot of experience, a lot of skills in this particular area. So one of my concerns is you mentioned about periodic issuances of details and so on. What I would like to hear from you is how about setting up a regular monthly update on what is happening. It only needs to be half a page saying we're doing this or we're doing that, and this is the status of the project so far to date. And this could be funneled through the PRNC, just so that we know that we are being kept up to date on a regular basis, monthly, preferably once again through the monthly PRNC meetings, so that at the end of X period of time, we are suddenly dropped on with a final set of 3 or 6 solutions without us being able to provide any input in the meantime. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I think that was the idea with the newsletter, and so I think the frequency is we're happy to provide monthly updates. I think, and if there isn't new news, I think we can just tell you that.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, I think if that's a cadence that you know, you all would be of most value, we can do that. That's no problem.
And we can schedule you in as a monthly speaker for just 1 or 2 minutes, you know, and then reach out if you want more, and we'll make room for you. If there's no update, you can send an email saying we have no update.
Yeah.
So we're happy
great.
to act as a conduit for that, because this project is important. I would like to make a statement about the outreach, something that I've advocated and we've heard a lot, that there be something in physical mail to the concerned community as well. There are lots of projects where somebody throws a website online and says respond. And I think sometimes it runs amok. Because people aren't computer literate. We've been on wonky websites where you're supposed to do something and the website doesn't work great. And so I would like you to consider, I don't know how that would look. Maybe it's just a physical postcard to announce a live or Zoom meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we can certainly, I think we've heard that in the past, Phil, and that's something we can take a look at. And I think I'm hearing it's mainly to the extent that invitations are being sent, that folks get that in physical form in addition to electronic, right?
Thanks, Ben. Vivian, you're muted.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate, I don't know how clear it is, that in addition to informing the community about what's going on, there are many people in the community who have been researching this for years now and who are professionals with a lot of expertise. And I'm wondering if from the very beginning, those people and their ideas could get figured in.
Yeah, I'm wondering, Adam, if you have, not to put you on the spot, but if you have thoughts on that, of as you all are gathering information, and you know, what would be the best way to plug in, you know, folks who have their own informed kind of thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. I think we actually anticipated doing that in some form. I think where we were thinking it may make the most sense is as we develop what alternatives we plan to look at, bring them to a meeting such as this one, and not only allow feedback on those alternatives, but have that be an opportunity to say, oh, by the way, there's also this alternative, or there's this, or have you thought of this as well, to make sure before we actually do the analysis, to make sure that we've got community buy-in on the alternatives that are actually being analyzed, so that we don't just come to you with, okay, here's what we've analyzed and here's a solution. We've had a little bit of dialogue along the way to make sure that what we're analyzing actually makes sense to everybody. And we welcome, you know, that outside the box thinking that might lead us down a path that maybe we hadn't thought of. So I do think there's an opportunity to do that. And we were planning to have a moment where that feedback makes sense before we do the analysis.
Thanks, Adam. You're new to this project, so I will let you know that we have 3 engineers who live in that neighborhood who definitely have the same type of experience as your team, who've worked on major infrastructure projects. And so I just want to piggyback on what Vivian had to say. These are not off the wall unicorn and fairy dust solutions. These are actual engineers with actual experience. So, and they have been given that sort of thank you for your feedback sort of response in the past. So it's a very real opportunity. And I would recommend that it's a good approach to listen carefully and say how your vision might fit in with some of those visions. Or if you feel that they're not projects that work, justify why, because we're lucky and it's odd, but we have infrastructure people in town. They've gravitated here. All right. Well, thank you. I don't see any more hands. We're going to move on. I didn't, as I just said, I'm so sorry I didn't mention at the beginning. We have a lot of public works stuff, and I was waiting for more people from public works. So Robert Armijo, I didn't mean any disrespect. I should have announced that we were going to flip-flop the agenda today. And thank you very much, Ben, Adam, and company. And we look forward to hearing you again. Robert, if you'll unmute, thanks for coming out at night. Roberts, these should be pretty fast because a lot of these updates are going beautifully. So it's all about you, sir.
All right. Well,
do you want to start with the Canal Boulevard traffic calming?
yes, I did have an update for all the projects, basically in the order that you sent me with the email. But I think everybody knows who I am at this point. But just in case you don't, my name is Robert Armijo. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director and City Engineer for the City of Richmond. And tonight I'm gonna just give a brief verbal update on the different projects that I was asked to give an update for. I do have some staff here with me tonight, and CSW is here as well for the projects that they're involved in. So good evening, everyone. And once again, thanks for inviting me to provide a quick update on some of the projects we're working on here in Public Works, specifically in the Point Richmond area. The first project I'm going to cover is going to be the Dornan tunnel lighting project, which we basically just began. We're just entered into a contract with a consultant that's going to provide the design. On September 19th, the City Council received, or I'm not the City Council, the city staff has received the 65% design submittal from our consultant. And the plans included new tunnel light fixtures, conduits, conduit supports, anchorage details, along with an updated cost estimate. We're currently routing these plans internally, and meaning amongst the staff, so that different subject matter people can take a look, and to our utility companies for their review and comment. Next, I'm going to talk about the Canal Boulevard traffic calming improvements. As I mentioned before, CSW is here tonight, and they may be able to answer more detailed questions if needed. On Canal Boulevard, striping was completed in August. The new layout provided a turn lane for trucks to stage when trains are crossing. We've already seen that it's helping someone who is trying to do donuts across the new markers, and that person wasn't successful. We'll also be installing a new speed feedback sign. You might have seen those. They're usually strapped to like a street light or a pole or something within the port over the next few weeks. A lot of the speeding traffic's heading towards the port. And so that's our quick update there. I'm going to move on to the Ferry Point pump station. The contractor, and thanks everyone, by the way, for your patience on that project. I know it's been kind of a slow moving project. It just, sometimes the wheels of government are slow to churn. And, we had a bunch of different procurement type issues just associated with being a government and having to process paperwork to get the contractor moving on change order items. But in any event, as you know, the contractor has remobilized and performed a lot of the new change order tasks. They do have a few tasks left. installing the Bay Trail signage, installing the new driveway bollards, and then obviously the big one, which is raising the masonry wall to provide the necessary screening for the equipment that you can see kind of popping over the top of the wall. Those materials are ready to go, and the wall work should be complete by mid-October is what we're projecting currently. Once that's done, our public works crews will install landscaping. So meaning our internal crews will do that. As you may know, we basically expended all of our budget. So, we're now having to use in-house forces to complete the rest of the work. We're also the landscaping that's going to be installed is going to be a type that would discourage graffiti on the walls. As you know, we've been having problems with that, with taggers marking that, and to improve the look of the site so the facility blends better with a natural setting. Also, I know there's questions about placing the boulders to prevent cars from parking behind the station. That property actually belongs to the East Bay Regional Parks District. We have been working with them to apply for a permit, and because it's their property, we can't just unilaterally go in and do whatever work we want over there. So in any event, we're waiting on their response. There's going to be likely some more collaboration with East Bay Regional Parks. Now moving on to the downtown Point Richmond bicycle and pedestrian connectivity project, which we just entered into or got the contract approved with CSW. So we're just gearing up for the outreach phase. I think Philip mentioned earlier in the meeting that what we're going to be doing is entering into the outreach phase. There's really no updates on the project itself since we're just starting, but we're finalizing the contract with our consultant, who's CSW ST2. The project leads and outreach coordinators for that are going to be Marcia Vallier and Jesse. And the project will include a very robust community outreach program, as I mentioned before. And I just want to clarify something. I know I've seen some chatter across the email and chat and whatnot about what the project entails. It's not just about bike lanes. That is a major component of the project, but it's also equally about improving pedestrian safety and also upgrading some of the substandard bus stops that are in downtown Point Richmond. So that should be a helpful element to the project as well. The goal of the project is to have a safer, more comfortable environment for people who are walking, biking, or waiting for transit, as well as providing better connections for the community overall. To get there, we'll be listening to a wide range of voices, Point Richmond residents, the PNRC, Track, who's obviously a major advocate for cycling in and around the Richmond area, the Point Richmond Business Association, the Washington Elementary parents and staff, and the broader Richmond community as well. So those are some of the outreach stakeholders once again, and the outreach will happen in 3 phases. First, we're going to be introducing the project, and we're going to be gathering community ideas. We're going to be presenting conceptual alternatives and listening to feedback that we've received. And then finally, we're going to be refining the preliminary design with field tests and community input. At every stage, there will be multiple ways for interested parties to participate. We will have a project website. I believe that part of our plan is providing online surveys, having in-person workshops, stakeholder meetings, attending meetings like this, and even the walk and roll tours of the project area. We've been doing that with some of our other projects where we've been doing like a walk along of the project area. And I'm sorry, I forgot to bring my water. Sorry, my voice is so gravelly, but
That's okay.
I'm definitely drying out here. In any event, the aim here is to build trust and arrive at a design that reflects the priorities of the entire community. So it's definitely on our mind, and I believe we have a team that we put together that's respected and trusted, particularly in the Point Richmond community. So we're looking forward to that project. I'm moving on to the 3 rail crossings project. The Point Richmond 3 rail crossing project basically has to do with the Cutting Boulevard railroad crossings and the interface with the bikes. So we did receive comments and feedback from the community, from the PNRC, and the idea is we're going to narrow the openings at the 3 railroad crossings so that because cars are trying to sneak through in those bike lanes inappropriately, illegally, and dangerously to get around gridlocks or to avoid traffic signal backups and stuff like that. So the bicycles will still be able to pass safely, so the design will address that. And again, this issue was first raised, I think, in 2022, and the plans were finalized this year. We've coordinated with the police and fire, and they had I don't think they really had many concerns, but we definitely addressed whatever little concerns they did have. And the construction.
Robert, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I appreciate this feedback. I think it's time. I think that it is best at a separate meeting.
Okay.
So one of the things that we did is we invited CSW along to explain what the future outreach is going to be. And unfortunately, in this short, brief time, I think that the giant missing thing that we continue to blow over is emergency evacuation routes. And so it's too big a project, and it is going to affect our safety and our lifestyle too broadly to further discuss in this meeting. But we will go back, because it's on the agenda, to have Jesse from CSW tell us how these meetings and these conversations should proceed, if that's all right with you.
That's fair. Yeah,
Thanks.
I'm just trying to provide updates as requested, but if you have a different form or venue that you want to address, that's perfect.
I think this is a whole. This is 3 meetings.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think.
Okay.
So do we?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So did you have anything else that is Public Works related that you wanted to mention, or should we go on to some questions?
No, that was my update. Yeah. So thanks for the opportunity to provide updates, and yeah, I'm happy to answer questions as best as I can.
Thanks, Edie.
Hi, it's kind of interesting that you brought that up, Philip. I was going to respectfully request that part of the outreach and the stakeholder engagement groups that you approach would include Point Richmond CERT, as well as the city's emergency response management team, which is through the fire department. Because yes, I think that not engaging about emergency evacuation routes for Point Richmond would be a real oversight for this.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me. Jesse, hopefully you're do you have any further thoughts or comments on that?
I'd like to make a suggestion if no one objects. Why don't we flip-flop the agenda once again and let Jesse just, Johnathan, with your, if you'll be patient, it makes sense for Jesse to follow on this now, and then we'll go back to Johnathan again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I'm Jessie Marin with CSW ST2. I've worked closely with Marcia Valier, who I'm sure many of you know, uh, for my entire career. And so she and I will be kind of dovetailing together to deliver and work with you all and the other groups that Robert mentioned um, on this project. We understand that it's really important up front as we go into the engagement process to really listen to you all. I know that this was mentioned in the discussion about the sewer project, that you live here. I work in Point Richmond, but we all have lived experience of concerns about specific spots and the way in which this project is going to address or not address those. So up front, we'll want to really hear from you all about what you have been thinking about, and that includes emergency response routes. It includes parking. It includes all of the kinds of ways in which the improvements that Robert mentioned are going to interact with, your existing conditions. We'll also want to really describe what we can and cannot do with this project. So it has a specific scope, it has a specific timeline. Once we're under contract, we'll have a charge for an outcome that we are trying to deliver for the community. And so we'll want to be able to share that with you in more detail. So as with the other projects we're giving updates on here this evening, when we come back and we have our first sort of official conversation with you, we'll be able to outline our charge, and then we'll have lots of time to sit with you and hear all of the thoughts that you have and all of the considerations that you want to make sure that we review. Robert talked about the numbers of different ways we want to engage with folks. Being able to show up to your PRNC meetings like this on a regular basis, and we can talk about that rhythm as it's appropriate, is one of those methods. We also want to make sure through in-person workshops and those online surveys and the websites and the flyers that are posted at the library and at the Triangle and at the coffee shop that we're engaging with all members of the Point Richmond community and the folks who pass through, spend money, utilize your businesses as well. So we want to make sure that we're getting kind of a broad spectrum of input so that we can come to kind of an outcome and a resolution that tries to balance all of those perspectives. So that was kind of a big picture overview and a concept, a little bit of a philosophy about engagement. Is there anything else more specific that I can respond to or didn't touch on there?
I don't see any hands, so I'll just, Jesse and I started to have conversations about this, but their contract wasn't finalized, so I was asked not to have any further questions. But I just want to reiterate something that Jesse mentioned to me that I think you all want to hear. And Jesse, correct me if these plans have changed. We have the same concerns about the bike lanes as we do about the engineering of Keller Beach. And you've kind of just reiterated that a little bit, Jesse, which is the city is getting a ton of money to put these in. And outreach has been disingenuous at best on some aspects of it. It's been better on other aspects. So when we discussed some ideas, you said that there would be a series of live meetings that would correspond with Zoom meetings so that no matter how you want to engage, you can. And then, as Robert mentioned, which I think is a great idea, actual physical walkthroughs or drive-throughs. And I've done it with Robert and I've done it with everybody who will, to kind of show what happens when there's a train and we can't make a U-turn, or we can make a U-turn, or there's a concrete barricade that disallows us from entering the lanes in an emergency. So is it correct that you still intend to have a series of live meetings coupled with Zoom meetings and walkthroughs?
Right. I really want to be able to give everyone an opportunity to engage with the project in the way that they are able to, or in the way that's appropriate for their lifestyle. So just to reiterate again what you were saying, Philip, there's the online opportunity. If you're not able to show up somewhere at a particular time and location, We want to make sure that we have a website that shares information and online survey forms or comment cards that allow you to share feedback at your convenience. We want to make sure that we do have in-person conversations. Building relationships and building trust and sharing information can sometimes be most effective when we're all together in a room. We also want to make sure that we're not talking about these ideas in the abstract, not just on plans or on slides, but we're actually getting out onto the street, looking at those specific concerns that you have. So we will initially walk and or ride, roll, however folks get around, with anyone who wants to show up to look at every spot and hear all of your thoughts. We'll then want to go out at the next milestone and talk about specific ideas or solutions that are generated for some of those trouble points. I anticipate, and it can always shift, that at that third touch point, we may be out there looking at prototypes, kind of marking stuff up in the street and testing how these ideas work, right? Because again, it's all ideas until it's built, and then we have an experience of traveling through those improvements, and we want to try to mimic that and test them the best we can before they become real life.
Right, and I will interject because I actually discouraged everyone else from interjecting, but it's me. This is a 10-year proof of concept. Now, there will be changes and improvements that make it safer for everybody that we're hoping that Robert Steve, and this is a good point that we could talk about, Robert, that Robert Stevens and I have been discussing for almost 2 years now. Some of it is easy as repainting wonky directional arrows in the street. But I do need you to understand that after years of working on safety, we were very taken aback to find out that whatever they put in is there for 10 years. So it's not like we can just remove it. And also that some of these lanes are now going to have those giant concrete curbs, which is much safer for bicycles and does discourage people from going into those lanes. But once they're there, those emergency evacuation routes are removed. So again, we can discuss this further, but I do want people to know that this is not casual. And we have seen that some voices rule the discussions 90%, and 10% of us are saying, but what about the U-turn? What about the trains? So thank you, Jesse. I look forward to moving that. I just wanted to stress, we have to follow up on this because when they're there, they're there. And it will be too late for us to go back and say, how did this happen? So thanks, Jesse. I really appreciate it. And thanks, Robert Stevens. Is there any movement on the changes to cutting, including that sort of painting stuff Robert and I talked about, and both Roberts and I have talked about? Is there any plan to tweak the cutting sort of train track area? Either of you?
Robert Armijo. This is Robert Stevens. I'm here too.
Hey, Robert.
And I don't know if Robert Armijo is still on.
Yeah, he is.
I'm still here.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I think it's actually interesting. I'm actually sitting on Cutting Boulevard right now in my car, and so yes, I think a lot of the conversations that we had, I think we can roll some of those ideas into this conversation. And I think Robert Armijo as well and his team, I think there's some quick hit changes and some quick hit modifications that we should contemplate and we should bring forward as part of a conversation here to make sure that everybody's involved in the conversation.
Right. The most dangerous challenges are the easiest to fix. And so it's a lot of paint and maybe a U-turn. It's not removing the lanes, or whatever, because we all want safe Bay Trail. We all want safe bike lanes, but, and I have been told on more than one occasion, oh, Philip, you're just planning on the worst possible scenario of emails. about that. Oh, you're always talking about the worst possible scenario. Yes, we are always talking about the worst possible scenario. Because if there's a fire at Chevron, the rest of it means nothing. So thank you all. I think we're done with Public Works, folks. You can all go home. It's been a long day. Darcy, we didn't get to hear from you, but we're going to invite you back real soon. Darcy is our new I don't know the title, park supervisor. And go ahead, Robert.
Darcy's our capital projects manager, but
Okay.
meaning that she is the lead administrator over our capital program, our capital improvement program. So the 100+ projects that's valued at over $400 million, that's hers to administer. But she also happens to be by training a landscape architect, and a great one at that. And we're really lucky to have her. But her title is capital project manager.
Thank you. We'll be inviting her because I've heard remarkable things about her being a remarkable professional. Thank you all. I appreciate it. We'll be hearing from you all year, this upcoming year, and we're very grateful for your time tonight. Johnathan Livingston, thank you for letting me shuffle things around a little bit. Johnathan is here at the zombied, resuscitated, and hopefully happening Terminal 1 project. Here's Johnathan.
Hey, thanks, Philip. The zombie. Yeah, it's anyway, thank you, Philip. Good evening, everybody. My name is Johnathan Livingston. I'm here tonight to give the community an update on the Terminal 1 residential project. I'm the designer of the project. I designed many homes in Richmond and elsewhere in the Bay Area. I lived in the Point for an extended period of time, and in one way or another have been connected with the City of Richmond for over 60 years. That's true. I've asked Philip for a few minutes tonight to update the community on a certain request we've received from the city. This is really the reason for this. Is everything was going along swimmingly, and then somehow we got this request from the city, and here it is. We've really made no changes to the project since the last time the PRNC reviewed it. Over a year ago, I think. However, last week we got word that some people in the city would like to see more density. And the number of 100 units was thrown out there kind of randomly. So Philip, could you please bring up the illustrations that you've got? Yeah, this is a view of Brickyard Cove Road with the project. And that's the entrance to the development, just right where that white car is. And in the background is a tower. That's the Compass Rose Cafe that's on the corner of Dornan and Brickyard Cove Road. And beyond that is Mount Tam. Next slide. This is the overall site plan. It's old now. There is one improvement to it. There's another addendum to it, which is a Bay Trail change that track requested. I don't know if that's the next slide or not. Yeah, that's the actual track approved Bay Trail realignment. What that did was it moved Brickyard Cove Road north 10 feet. We moved the trail south and moved the road north 10 feet, being a little closer to the hill. And you'll see that it's got that big sweeping turn that we all loved. And if this project gets approved, we're going to be building that connector road with a curve on it and realigning the whole entrance to Miller Knox Park. Okay, next slide. Or not.
Maybe
We
lost it.
Okay, it's okay.
Apologies. Let me get it back up here again.
And by the way, for those of you who've been following this improvement to the Bay Trail and the way the traffic will have that right-hand turn onto at Miller Knox Park is great.
Yeah, it's It's the only way we can do it is with this project. Otherwise, there's no money. This is a picture of the development with the old wharf, a remnant hanging in there, and it shows the view from the Bay Trail looking at Tiburon. So that's a little eye wash of the architecture and the land plan. Now getting on to the rest of the comments here. So yeah, the city wanted 100 units, and it's not what we really wanted, or wasn't the intent of the developer. But we gave it a shot, and we took a look at what it would do, what would happen if we applied more density to it. And we don't believe we can comply with 100 units, but we wound up around the mid to low 90s. And the reason we really couldn't comply is what the community really liked about that project was it looked a lot like the waterline development. It had plenty of parking in front of the units. It had wide streets, and we provided plenty of parking, where the former design was devoid of a lot of parking and a lot of space between the units. So we feel we can get to the mid 90s and not sacrifice the aesthetics and what made the development as good as the last one you saw. The city's desire for density is encouraged by California State Housing Authority. Every city and town in the state's been being pushed to provide more housing, and the same thing happened. It trickled down to Richmond. So that's, I think, where the 100 unit number kind of came from. They're trying to up the density. The problem with this site is the density. It's hard to provide a lot of density down there because there's no public transit. There's no public services. There's no amenities like stores. So it's a little difficult down there, and still have enough parking for everybody. This is an isolated spot, and low density development is the only thing that really makes sense down there with the community. In summary, I think we can maintain the integrity of the aesthetics of the design that the PRNC reviewed previously and comply with the city's request for more density. So I think we can do that, and you'll see it coming soon. An update on the port use. 6-9 months ago, there was some talk about the city wanting to recapture the Terminal 1 port and turn it into a commercial facility. And last week, we just got an email from the port saying no longer interested. So that whole subject is, as far as we're concerned with the letter we got, is dead. So that's kind of and thanks everybody for, if you had comments on that, it worked. And that's really it, Philip.
Thanks so much, Johnathan. Johnathan, do you think that the city will compromise with you? I mean, we can't, Point Richmond, particularly that area, because of safety concerns and evacuation concerns, can't really hold much more density. Do you feel you have cooperation, and can you reach out to, will you reach out to us if there's anything the community can do to help?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Community input here is super critical. Caesar can't get I think, buy-in from the rest of the council unless he knows that his constituents are happy. And that's one of the reasons that I'm reaching out to everybody here, is to let everybody know what's going on, so you can be part of it. It's a real balance at the council. We've been at this for over a year, just trying to get the opportunity to proceed. And it's a delicate balance. Everybody wants something else. You know, the one council member wants this, and another council member wants that. And we finally come to this point where, okay, let's try to increase the density a little bit, and then we're okay. So we're right on the edge. So we're going to need your input.
Sally.
Hi. I wonder if you could say a few words about how the contamination in that area is going to be dealt with.
Oh, sure, Sally. No problem. The contamination, that's a water board issue, and they at the last development that came through there, 154 units and the 365, they had satisfied the water board's requests, and they their intention is to be in full compliance with the water board and DTSC on every aspect of this.
Thank you. And we'll have much more time to discuss these types of details when we have a dedicated meeting about the project. I'm thinking that maybe some of our PRNC meetings can kind of meld with the LUDRC meetings, because all of these projects are important enough to, have a full hour to discuss, or 15 minutes constantly or whatever. That's a great question, Sally. I know you're very concerned. I also wanted, Bruce, I see your hand up. I also wanted to mention, just to throw a bombshell in this, that the quarry project is back on the board as well. So I think we have an opportunity. Both of those projects deal with moving a lot of earth, moving a lot of toxic earth, Sally, and evacuation routes and safety routes and access in and out of Brickyard Cove from both directions. And so with any luck, these two projects being put back on the board will give for those of us who are concerned about safety first, that'll bring those things back into light. And Johnathan has worked tirelessly on this for decades, pointing out when things weren't working and how to make them work. Bruce Brubaker.
Thanks, Philip. Hi, Johnathan.
Hey, Bruce.
So I'm a little taken aback that it seems to be that we're speaking as if the people on this call and Point Richmond is of one voice about this project, and at least my voice, and I think some others, would like to see more density in this project. And California does have a huge need for housing. There's a huge need for more affordable housing. And Johnathan, I think that it would not be hard to get some more density on this project if you went to some units that had a different development type, duplexes or triplexes, that would perfectly match the nice aesthetic that you have going, but also accommodate additional units for people who are not, multimillionaires.
Right. Bruce, are you still sitting on the Planning Commission?
I am.
Okay, it's important to mention that, because all of this is going to end up in your lap at some point in the future. I agree with you, but I do want to point out, when it comes to a like-minded voice, all we can talk about is the years that we spent getting here. And obviously, we're going to have to spend more time moving to the next step. So not every single person in this.
I understand that, Philip, but
Yeah.
you're often saying what we think is this. And
when I say that,
I don't know that that's completely fair.
Okay, when I speak, and I'm not a professional in planning, you and several other people here are, I'm just speaking to where we ended up as the PRNC. Okay, so if this was, after years of working on it, if this is where what the PRNC liked, I think it's fair for us to say, this is where we are. There will always be dissenting voices. And no matter what they build, there will be people who wish there was more or less density. So we hear you, and that is why I asked Johnathan asked to come, and that's why he's here. He's here to say this is back out again, and we're going to be discussing this again in the future.
Hey, Philip, if I may, there's probably no one in the Point that I respect more than Bruce Brubaker in terms of architecture. And I happen to agree with him 100% of what he says. I do. I'm not necessarily a new urbanist, but I respect him completely. His point of view is exactly right. But there's other things here at stake. I mean, and Bruce knows this. But I just wanted to say that I really respect him, and his point of view, and I share that point of view. You know, my pencil though gets pushed by various forces, and that I can't necessarily control. But Bruce, just you know that you guys have an advocate here who's behind the drawings, and so work with us on this if you would. Is it, you know, the problem we have as a community is if we lose the local architects like myself and Bruce, then we may get some of these architects that build the high density projects that you see next to the El Cerrito del Norte. I mean, could you imagine something like that out here? So let's work together. And in summary, I really appreciate Bruce.
I agree, and I hope I didn't sound disrespectful, Bruce, because I don't mean it that way. If it came off that way, I apologize. Any other questions for Johnathan? So obviously this is going to come back in front of the community in its new form. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Johnathan. And
Thanks,
I think
thanks,
we're done with
thank you, everybody.
It's a pleasure. We'll be
Thank you,
seeing you
Bruce.
again next year in the new year. So we're it's Richmond Swims here. All right, that speaker did not make it. We'll invite him again. And let's go on to the regular meeting. I think we're not too far behind. We're kind of far behind, but not too bad. So let's go to community briefs with anybody here from Maskers.
I have some Maskers notes, brief notes.
Thanks, Jim.
Right in the middle of Big Scary Animals, that will run till September 28th. And then following that will be Prelude to a Kiss, the 10 to 19 October. Single tickets are $35. Seniors are $30.
Thank you, Jim. Moving right along. I was at the last neighborhood coordinating council meeting. There was nothing earth-shattering to report from that meeting. We heard from various city officials, and there is some work on the neighbor-to-neighbor grant, which none of you have seen. Many of you have seen the results of all of these events we're doing in town, but very few of you are aware that it's been quite a challenge for the neighbor councils who are kind of doing the boots on the ground work. So as we enter the final stretch of that, we are going to, at least certainly with Cesar Zepeda's help, the Point Richmond Neighbor Council is getting good support from the city to make sure our vendors get paid and that the money part of the project continues along. And then let's see, sorry, my printer kind of failed, so I'm not seeing things. Anybody, anything from Gary and Marin at Hurlbutt? We have a lot on the meeting. I don't see them today, so we'll move on from that. Sorry, again, my printer isn't, my printout isn't very good. Red Oak, what's going on at the Red Oak Victory? You still with us, Graham?
I don't see him anymore.
We seem to have lost him. Maybe he'll pop back in again. Oh, well, this part's moving along really quick. Women's West Side. I see Diane. Are you speaking for the women tonight?
Yes, I am. Thank you. As you know, we're doing the Gab and Garden Excitement Project on October the 11th. Philip was talking a little bit about it before we started our meeting. And we're working with PRNC. It's hoping for a good turnout of people to learn more about our local gardens, meet our working members, and inviting the community involved. We're having one of our members talk at 10:30 at the Rose Garden, how to prune roses. And we have either Catherine Worley or her representative from the Watershed Nursery at the Map Garden regarding native plants. So we're hoping we have a good turnout. And thank you, Philip, for all your working together with us on that. I don't know if you have any other input, but I'll go ahead. We recently selected our choice of 3 speakers for the year. And so we are excited for our October 7th meeting. We're actually having Philip Rosenthal. And he's going to be doing a presentation and of course, talking about the recent PRNC concerns, working together as community. And Philip, we are really looking forward to you coming to speak with us. Last Tuesday, we were at Peter Knox Park picking up trash, and the next date will be October the 12th. And we do it from 10 to noon, and public is always invited. Also, in ending our membership drive, we are always welcoming new members. We meet the first Tuesday of each month, 11:30 to 1:30 at the First Methodist Church on Martina Street Avenue, and our dues are only $25. You can always get more information about us and how to join at our website, pointrichmond.com/WWIC. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, October the 7th. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but she was on and I don't see her now, but our oldest member of our Women's Website is Martha Balaski, who turned 105 in July. So thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Diane. Now we'll move on to Peter and Ping Pong.
Yep. So I'm continually astounded at how many people show up. I think we're averaging about 10 people every Monday. So if you have nothing to do on a Monday and you want to meet some new people and casually whack a ping pong ball back and forth, you're more than welcome to come to the Point San Pablo Yacht Club on Cutting. Just drive up to the gate, push the button, 5 o'clock on Mondays. And nope, oops, I just lost, there it is. Anyway, nobody's really good, so it's very casual and lots of fun. So anyway, that's it.
We'll send everybody from the hip hop class where I suspect nobody will be really good. Or maybe they will, I don't know. Charmaine, can you fill us in anything on CERT? Thank you, Peter.
I don't have anything to report today.
Thank you very much. And Bonnie Jo?
Yes, I'm here. I have a couple of things. A week from tonight, we will be presenting our first lecture of the season in cooperation with the West Side branch of the Richmond Public Library at the Community Center at 6:30. Greg Brock will be talking about the dawn of industrial Richmond, the development of the Richmond shoreline from the mid-19th century to the eve of World War II. And highlighted will be George Ellis, Jacob Tewksbury, John Nickel, and Fred Parr, all the big guns. Greg is a member of the History Association Board and a history buff, and he will be presenting at 6:30 at the Community Center. We'd like to see you all there. Also, I'd like to give you an update about the wigwag, the broken wigwag. The History Association has submitted an emergency grant to the Gateway Foundation to cover the cost of the repair. We haven't heard back from them yet, but we're optimistic. And Dan Furtado, the wigwag wizard, will be dismantling. He's already taken the arm off of the wigwag so that it won't be damaged further, and he'll be removing more parts in the near future to take back to his studio and do his magic. So we will have an operational wigwag again. I don't know when though. That's it.
Thanks. And Bonnie, I have an update for you. the fine folks at Acapulco Rock and Soil, when they're finished with the Triangle Garden at the end of the week, will be pulling up the weed guard inside the weed grags, cleaning the inside up, putting new, better weed guard and new stone, which
Wow.
they are donating to our community.
Awesome.
So thanks, Acapulco Rock.
Thank
and
you.
Is this
Thank
is this
you
the
for
place
doing it.
over in El Cerrito?
No, it's on Jacuzzi Street.
Yeah.
I think
Off
it's
Central.
Richmond. It's Richmond.
It's Richmond?
Yeah, Central and Jacuzzi.
Okay. Yeah,
And it's
I know the
fantastic.
place.
I love it. But
Impressive.
anyway, they've been really good to us, and we never could have done the Triangle Gardens without their, quite honestly, giving us great prices. And they're our hometown folks. And Caesar had a nice word with them and befriended them, and then we got even better prices. So something magic about Caesar. Anybody want to speak from arts? If not, I will highlight their upcoming program. Is there an Arts at Point Richmond? Margie usually gives that report. She's out of town. She's spending the entire month with a family reunion. You will see these colorful posters start to go up around town. The PRNC is joining with the Arts at Point Richmond to do something called Around Town, Building Community Through Art. That'll be happening in October. It's going to start on October 11th with a lecture or talk with Mark Erkson about using visual art and illustration. The whole project will involve artists from Point Richmond painting, drawing, or memorializing in their artistic form community leaders or community people that they respect and like. So it's the perfect community event because somebody may ask to paint you or photograph you for the exhibit that I'll talk about in a moment. So as part of that, we're doing this free art series. And you don't have to remember the dates because this is going to be all over the place. We'll send it out to you. On Saturday, October 18th, there's going to be Magda Peck, who is a nationally famous speaker on the art of storytelling. And this ties in because all of these community members who are immortalized in these artistic works will then be telling their stories, or the artists will be telling their stories. This is a phenomenal project that was developed by the Arts at Point Richmond, and the PRNC was happy to be able to finance this and help get it off the ground. And then the last of the events will be on Sunday, October 26th, which will be an art walk of the banner program. And unfortunately, it will act also as a memorial to Cannoli Oliari, who was the local artist who started the banner program. We lost him a couple of weeks ago, too soon. And so after this art walk of all the banners, we will then have a happy memorial at the art gallery with refreshments and such. Again, this is a very basic outline. And then from late October till late November, all of the things I'm talking about, all of this artwork will be on exhibit at the Point Richmond Gallery. So that's the Arts of Point Richmond /PRNC update. Look for these posters around town and of course in your email box. And then we're going to move on to Magic Lantern. Kate, I saw you're back in business. You're muted. Kate, unmute,
Thank you.
please.
Unmuted. Thank you. Thank you. So we had a wonderful, wonderful meeting, film in September. It was called Driving Madeline, which is nothing ever like Driving Miss Daisy. It was a French film. It was a top bill, so everyone in the audience enjoyed it immensely. It was very, very shocking stories inside of a taxi cab ride. So we're going into October on the first Saturday in October, October 4th, not the 2nd as we're accustomed to doing. And we're showing an Irish film about the sweetness and interesting characters in an Irish countryside. And it will be the antidote for anyone who feels upset by current geopolitical issues. It will give you a wonderful sense of life after that, seeing this film. It's called That They May See the Rise of the Sun. And anyway, it's just a little deviation from our usual second Saturday at the Methodist Church for 7:30 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. It's nice to see you back on it again. For those of you who've not attended, Kate curates these, and she is absolutely world class at curating these movies and having conversation afterwards. She's good at it. So go if you haven't already.
Thank you.
Layla is going to comment on Pram.
Well, hey guys, not much for Pram. We just look forward to seeing everybody this Saturday at Kernes in downtown Point Richmond.
Okay, major fundraiser. And Pram, is Pram helping out with entertaining the children in the kids zone?
No, there's going to be so much. There's no room for us.
Okay. Maybe that's good that you get to enjoy something without chasing after kids. This is a big deal. Again, 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the Town Triangle this coming Saturday. And they have a lot of money to raise. It's a very big festival this year. And Charmaine, do you have anything on the homeowners? Did we lose Charmaine?
Yeah, no, I'm here. I just want to say that I really appreciate Johnathan coming, and Johnathan Livingston, thank you very much for giving us an update on Laconia and what's happening there at that corner. And thank you to the city for updating us about that corner. We're all hoping that it gets better. Thank you very much.
They need a fingers crossed emoji, right? Thank you, Charmaine. Is there anybody that would like to speak for a few minutes on just any subject in general or introduce themselves to the community?
Yeah, I got one thing to say. Johnathan here.
Hey, Johnathan.
It just dawned on me that they're going to be tearing that Terminal 1 warehouse down, and it's steeped in history, as everybody knows. And one idea I had that came up, and I thought I just mentioned to you guys or to the community, was we're thinking about of having a fundraiser there for NIAD, National Institute for Arts and Disabilities, and opening up that whole warehouse, all that graffiti inside for a festival down there. So anyway, that's kind of in here. I think it'd be kind of fun for the community to come down there and walk and see art and see the graffiti inside. Have you been inside that Terminal 1? It's just chock-a-block full of this amazing graffiti. So it'd be kind of fun to walk through there. I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that up. That's all.
Thanks. That's interesting. And we hope it remains within there, because right now it's all over the
well, they're gonna be tearing it down. So before they tear it down, it'd be nice to have for the community to see what it was.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Johnathan, it's Edie here, and I want to say that when that happens, you have to send me an invite. I cannot wait to get in and see that.
I thought I hit a nerve.
Oh my God, I would happily pay money to go see what's inside there.
Yeah, well yeah.
And of course, the Burning Man people are all on top of that, right, Edie?
Yeah, right.
It's really cool. Couldn't possibly comment.
Ahmad, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good evening to all. My name is Ahmad Anderson. I'm in the Laurel Park Neighborhood Council community, but I'm also running for the city's mayor role. And I just wanted to stop in, which I have before, and visit with you and hear what your concerns are. I appreciate your efforts, the community engagement, and really the active organization that looks out for not only those here in your community, but the city as a whole. And I appreciate being a guest tonight.
Thanks. We love having you around. We all have something in common. I would like to make a little business introduction, kind of in a weird way. I've been speaking a lot to the owner of the Dog, DAWG house. dog grooming service that was in the old fire station, right next to the old Starbucks. She lost her lease next to the Baltic. She lost her lease. She has now opened her doors. She has relocated to Tewksbury. She's fantastic. A couple doors down from Johnny Boy Burger. So she's back in business. And I told her I'd give her a little plug because everybody's been wondering what happened. And what happened was she lost her lease. But John owns that building and put another little local business in. So I'm glad she's back. I don't have a dog anymore, but she comes highly recommended for what I know. Kate.
Yes, I see Jim Davis in our audience, and he usually talks about Rosie the Riveter.
Did I miss you, Jim?
Yeah, he's been very quiet.
I apologize, Jim. Always speak in. You know that it's usually Bonnie Joe that I routinely forget. So obviously I have something against the history people. I'm sorry, Jim. Thank you, Kate.
No, it's okay. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it.
And Sue has been singing your praises all day to a friend of hers. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Let's see my notes. I'm giving a new talk on this Sunday, the 28th at 2:30 at Rosie the Riveter. It's taken me about a year to put this together on housing in Richmond in World War II, which is apropos of some of the subjects we've been talking about tonight. I don't know how many of you realize it, but when the war ended in 1945, we had 23,000 public housing units here in Richmond, more than any other community in the United States. 70,000 people were living in this housing and it had to be disposed of. And so I'm hoping to tell that story on Sunday, and I'd love to see you all there.
Yeah, again, another true professional. If you haven't seen Jim at Rosie's, it's really worth a walk or a drive over. I see that we're at the remembrance and celebration time, and we have Kent here. Thank you, Kent. I'm really glad you made it. I know you don't love Zoom. To talk about a dear friend of many of us and a friend of our communities.
Yes, Margaret Murkowski was a friend of mine for 39 years. That's half my life, so half her life too. And she died suddenly in August, although she had been kind of a recluse for about 5-6 years. She lost use of her legs and basically had to be moved from a bed to a wheelchair. She couldn't use a walker, and she had people coming in every day. And she was, during that period, she was remarkably pleasant and a positive person. I'd call her up, and unless she had a cold or something, I'd say, how you doing, Margaret? And she'd say, oh, I'm fine. How are you doing? You know, I was like, maybe I should be the one who's complaining, but no, she was very positive. She's a very interesting person. When I met her at EPA, she was an accountant, but everyone knew her as a person who would put together a party. And when management went on a retreat, they would borrow Margaret, and that was the kind of person she was. But when she left EPA, I would go. I still went back. And people would come to me and say, where's Margaret? Give Margaret, tell them I want to talk to her. And she wouldn't, because she was done with EPA. But then she was quite busy in Point Richmond, which, by the way, I'm responsible for her living here because I found a house in Point Richmond, and she was helping me look for property in Marin County. I wanted to move to Marin County, and she was living in Marin County. She grabbed an agent. We looked for a long time, and finally I decided I was an East Bay guy, but I wanted to be close to Marin County. And hell, the toll going across the bridge was $1, so why not? And I moved here, and a month later, Margaret was living here. She liked it too, and good thing we've been friends, that whole time. She was my dog's best friend, maybe even more than me. And she loved having him, and I was traveling a lot, so I had a built-in dog sitter. It was great. Anyway, Margaret became involved in just about everything in Point Richmond, starting with the Women's West Side Improvement Club. And she soon found out if she joined a club, it probably wouldn't be long before they wanted to make her a secretary or, vice president or something. And she was on a real roll, and then suddenly, I think maybe her dog got old. My dog died. Her dog got old. Whatever, and suddenly she withdrew and became a recluse. And that was just Margaret, but she did a lot of good things. I really miss her. It was a shock. When I found out about it, I just come back from a trip. Actually, she died when I was gone, and I knew I had to get the word out because she'd been a recluse in the last 5 or 6 years, and a lot of people lost touch with her. And I have the man I'm looking at right now, Philip. Thank you very much for helping me get the word out. I appreciate that.
Can I interrupt? Excuse me, Diane from the Women's Club. Martha
Of course you can.
Belaski is on a pad. She's under the name iPad, and she just went off. She's been listening, and she's alive. Martha, is it a different name? Is it?
No, we're talking about Margaret Murkowski, Diane, who you probably remember.
Another one. Okay.
Right. So I see a lot of smiles and nods. The old timers know Margaret. She was involved in everything. She had the warmest personality, and it showed on her face. She had one of those faces that you could tell that she had spent her life smiling and saying kind things. And I knew her kind of casually as I was getting involved in things around town. And I see Charmaine nodded. I think a lot of us just know her from years gone by. Kent, it's clear that you loved her very much as a friend. And I'm glad we can remember her, even though things were rough at the end, in a kind of happy way. And I hope it isn't very long, Kent, until only the pleasant memories remain for you and her close friends. You're muted, Kent, if you want to say anything else before we sign off.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Philip, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the good news was Margaret was very positive toward the end, and then the very end came rather quickly. And as I say a lot these days, could have been worse. And yeah, I miss her a lot, but mostly I was, trying to make sure that people knew about it. And her next of kin is a sister who lives in the foothills. Wasn't that close to her. I've asked her about having some kind of celebration of Margaret's life, and so far I haven't heard, but remembering her fondly would be good.
Well, I think a lot of us do. Thank you very much, Kent, for coming out tonight. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on Saturday at the Kernes fundraiser for the PTA. We'll see you on October 4th from 8 o'clock till noon for Dumpster Day. And just keep your eyes on the newsletter. We've got a lot going on. I'm glad to see y'all. I hope you had a great summer break. Some of you saw the world, and some of you stuck close to home. And Diane and I spent our entire summer in the garden. So we love you guys. Thanks so much for showing up today.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.